On the eve of our wedding, my fiancé's mother suddenly fell gravely ill, urgently needing a massive sum for surgery. To earn quick money to save a life, I accepted my boss's heavy responsibility of a high-risk overseas assignment. This assignment lasted 3 years. During days under constant fire, risking life and limb, the only thing supporting me was the thought of finishing the mission quickly and returning to the States to marry Ethan. But when I rushed back to the States to surprise him, despite having just had a bullet removed from my abdomen, I witnessed him and my best friend, inseparable, like two halves of a whole, being sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. So, this was what he meant by, "I think about you every night and can't sleep." I immediately bought data and helped their incriminating photos go viral, trending #1. Ethan called me urgently right after getting off the operating table. "Skylar, I don't know who I offended, but someone photoshopped Chloe and my photos into explicit images and posted them online. Quick, give me $30,000, and I'll get the trending topic removed." I told him I was already back in the States. But I didn't tell him that I was the one who made them went viral across the country. "What? Skylar, you're back in the States? Where are you now? I'll pick you up." "The hospital." Ethan, on the other end, was suddenly speechless, taking a moment before asking, "The hospital? Which hospital?" When I told him the hospital's name, he stammered, "Skylar, you haven't believed the rumors and gossip online, have you? My leg is broken, my mom is gravely ill, and you entrusted Chloe to take care of me. How could she and I do anything to betray you? I booked a fancy hotel for you. Go there tonight and stay for a night. I'm still on a business trip out of town, but I'll come back to you as soon as I finish my work." Before I even hung up, he had already sent me the fancy hotel's room number. Yet, he shamelessly asked me to reimburse him for $800. His deep voice, which used to fill me with such longing, now made my stomach churn. In the past, if he just talked me up like that, I would have given him my life. But now, the agonizing pain in my abdomen and stomach surged to my heart, leaving me momentarily unable to tell which hurt more. I looked down at the bandage already bleeding through, took a deep breath, and said calmly, "Just kidding, I won't be back in the States so soon." Ethan, who had just been anxious and guilty, immediately raised his voice. "Skylar, are you sick? Is this something to joke about? Do you know how much I missed you?" I took a step, wanting to rush to the hospital room door and confront him, to ask him just how much he missed me, to be sleeping together with my best friend. But in the end, I asked nothing, simply hung up the phone. He wouldn't let me come home and booked me a fancy hotel instead, because there was something at home he didn't want me to see. But I'm stubborn. Even if I was cheated on, I wanted to see the extent of Ethan's betrayal. I took a taxi and quickly returned to our apartment. Inside, I heard a child crying. My blood ran cold. They had a child behind my back? Then what was the point of me risking my life for 3 years to earn money for his mom's medical bills? Just then, I heard Margaret's voice comforting the child. "Shoo, don't cry, sweetie. Your mom went to the hospital to have a little sister for you. If you still want a sister, will you be good? When your aunt comes back, we'll give her a big surprise." "Grandma, when will aunt come home to play with me?" "Mom never plays with me, she just wants to have a sister." A thunderbolt struck my mind. Had they had one child for me to raise for 3 years, and now were planning a second to make me a fool again? After all, Chloe wasn't pregnant when I left. Rage made me lose all reason, and I instinctively entered the apartment door password. The alarm sounded, indicating an incorrect password. I froze in place, my fingertips cold. When we set the password, Ethan wrapped his arms around my neck and kissed me. "Skylar, let's use the day we met, okay? That way, every time I open the door, it'll be like meeting you again." Now, that door kept me out. Footsteps sounded inside, followed by the turning of the lock. The door opened. A little boy, about 3 years old, looked up at me, his large eyes filled with curiosity. "Who are you?" Even though I was mentally prepared, my heart was being ripped apart when I clearly saw the boy's features, so much like Chloe's. The wound in my abdomen also throbbed with the rush of emotion, and the seeping blood stained my shirt. "Leo, who is it?" Margaret's voice came closer. When she saw me at the door, the smile on her face instantly froze, all color draining, like she'd seen a ghost. "Skylar? Why are you back?" Margaret frantically tried to close the door, but I firmly held it open with my hand. "Mom, I'm home. Aren't you going to welcome me?" Margaret knew she couldn't keep it a secret any longer. While she used her body to block my view, she tremblingly pulled out her phone. "Ethan, come back quickly, Skylar is back." She was screaming at the top of her lungs into the phone. I pushed the door open forcefully and walked in. I looked around the apartment I'd poured my life savings into, furnishing with so much hope. Aside from the dusty wedding photo on the nightstand, where was there any trace of me? Chloe's dresses, heels, bags were everywhere. Children's toys were scattered across the floor. The air was filled with an unfamiliar scent, belonging to another woman. My home had long become someone else's cozy love nest. Memories flooded back. 3 years ago, at the airport. Ethan cried, his voice choked with sobs. "Skylar, you must come back safely. I'll wait for you." "Okay, Ethan, don't worry. I'll find a way to gather Margaret's medical bills as quickly as possible." He squeezed me tightly in his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "Skylar, if only my leg wasn't broken, I would be the one risking my life for Mom's medical bills. Going to a high-risk overseas assignment is too dangerous. Maybe you shouldn't go? I don't want you to risk your life for my mom. If anything happened to you, how could I live?" At that time, we had nothing. Even if we sold our apartment, we couldn't raise the funds for Margaret's medical bills. There was no other choice but to find a way to earn quick money. Margaret had been a guardian angel to me. If she hadn't given me a home after I was orphaned at a young age and sponsored my college education, I might have starved, or fighting stray dogs for food on that day. Ethan's family wasn't wealthy. Margaret raised us alone, which was incredibly difficult. So, when she fell gravely ill and urgently needed surgery, I accepted my boss's overseas assignment. Every day in the high-risk overseas assignment was like walking through hell. Bullets whizzing past, explosions detonating nearby. Countless brushes with death. What I clutched in my hand was a photo of his bright, handsome face. I scrimped and saved, sending every penny of my earnings from my dangerous work to him. Each time he received money, he was incredibly touched. "Skylar, thank goodness for you. When you come back, we'll get married. I think about you every night and can't sleep." Ethan returned quickly, without even having time to change out of his hospital gown. He burst through the door, his face anxious and guilty. "Skylar, let me explain." Ethan stepped forward, trying to take my hand, but I stepped aside to avoid him. He spoke quickly. "Leo's father passed away in an accident before Chloe gave birth to him, and it wasn't easy for Chloe raising a child alone. During your 3 years away, she really helped take care of my mom and me." As he spoke, his eyes welled up, looking pathetic. "We felt sorry for the child, so we helped care for him, giving him a home. If you were here, you would definitely do the same, right?" Just then, Leo, holding a toy car, walked up to me, looked up with his little face, and said in a childish voice, "Aunt, will you play with my toy car?" That single word, Mom, struck me like a thunderbolt, making my eardrums buzz. For the past 3 years, neither Ethan nor Chloe had ever mentioned this child to me. This made it very hard for me to believe that Leo had nothing to do with Ethan. Meeting my suspicious gaze, Ethan's face flashed with annoyance, then he stroked Leo's head. "Leo, be good. Aunt just got home, let her rest for a bit, okay?" As he spoke, he familiarly squeezed the soft flesh of my waist. "Skylar, see how much Leo likes your aunt, quickly show your support." I couldn't help but scoff. "I'm not interested in becoming a mother without giving birth. Where's Chloe? Weren't you two sent to the hospital together?" Ethan's eyes darted around, and he quickly denied. "Skylar, have you believed the online rumors? Chloe and I are completely innocent." He didn't know that when he and Chloe were piled into the ambulance together, I was right there. It seemed he was afraid I'd confront Chloe if she showed up, so he told her to hide. But I wasn't interested in supporting someone else's husband and child, so I called Chloe directly. "Come and take your husband and child away. As for Aunt, she's free to stay or go." If expected me to support her, out of gratitude, I wouldn't go back on my word. But I wouldn't support Ethan and his son anymore. Ethan smashed my phone and flared up and refused on the spot. "Skylar, what do you mean? I'm your fiancé, and you're kicking me out the moment you get home? Ethan, if you don't leave, are you planning to stay in my home, making me the sucker who supports the three of you?" My gaze was as sharp as a knife, sweeping over his pale face. He shivered at the coldness in my voice. "Skylar, it's not what you think. Chloe and I really have nothing going on. She was just helping me. Get out." I cut him off sharply, pointing to the door. Ethan froze, as if he was seeing me for the first time. "Skylar, you're telling me to get out?" His eyes immediately reddened, filled with an unbelievable sense of grievance. "We've been apart for 3 years, I longed for you day and night, finally you're back, and you treat me like this? You missed me?" I stepped closer to him, the pain in my abdomen causing cold sweat to bead on my forehead, but it was nowhere near the pain in my heart. "Missed me enough to sleep with Chloe? Missed me enough to have a child with her? Missed me enough to use my money to support your child? No, it's not. Leo isn't mine. Shut up. I pointed to the main door, using my last ounce of strength. Take your things and get out of my apartment. Now. Immediately. Ethan watched my resolute expression, the color slowly draining from his face. He bit his lip hard, tears streaming down his face. After a long moment, he suddenly grabbed the bag from the sofa and glared fiercely at me. Skylar, I never thought you'd be such a narrow-minded and heartless person. I'm leaving. You'll regret this. He dragged Leo and Margaret, then stumbled out the door. A loud bang left the apartment filled with an eerie silence. I couldn't stand, stumbled, and leaned against the wall. The bloodstain on my abdominal bandage had already spread widely. Agonizing pain tore at my nerves. But it was nowhere near the pain of my heart, completely crushed, and the ridiculous 3 years I'd wasted. 10 minutes later, I heard a loud commotion outside, followed by knocking on my door. A neighbor from 302, do you have no conscience? Married couples make up after a fight, how could you kick your husband out? He's now threatening to jump with his mom and child, aren't you going to try and talk him down? I opened the door, and the unfamiliar neighbor froze when he saw me. He quickly checked the apartment number, then yelled into the room, Mrs. Song, did you hear that? It turned out that during the 3 years I was away, Ethan and Chloe had presented themselves as a married couple to the neighbors. No wonder the neighbor didn't recognize me. After our apartment was renovated, I didn't live in it for a single day, so it was all for that bitch Chloe. But it was a matter of life and death, so I had no time to explain the complicated relationship to the neighbor. I quickly took the elevator to the rooftop. Ethan started crying even louder when he saw me. Skylar, why won't you believe me? By kicking me out, aren't you trying to drive me to my death? Chloe took care of my mom and me for you, and we helped her care for Leo. It was a mutually helpful arrangement, but in your eyes, it's an affair. You didn't want me to support her child, so I already sent Leo away. Isn't that enough? He hung his head, tears streaming down his face, looking so pathetic, a stark contrast to the responsible man I remembered. Perhaps he'd grown too accustomed to living off me for 3 years that he'd forgotten he once said he'd be my shelter from the storm. I remained silent, not yet speaking, when Margaret suddenly climbed onto the rooftop ledge. Skylar, Ethan, and Chloe are completely innocent. I'll stake my life to prove their innocence, okay? With that, she made to jump down. I didn't want to be responsible for a death, so I quickly yelled, enough, I believe you. Having received my affirmation, Ethan quickly exchanged glances with Margaret. I couldn't be bothered to watch his usual drama, threats, and emotional blackmail, so I turned and went home. Late at night, the master bedroom door was gently pushed open. Ethan slipped in naked, still wearing cologne. Skylar. His voice trembling, his hand began to roam over my body. I grabbed his wrist tightly, with such force he cried out in pain. My wound isn't healed, so it's not convenient. I stared at him, my gaze devoid of any desire. Get out. His face paled, and his eyes reddened as he tried to say why something, but he was interrupted by the sudden ring of his phone. As if burned, he rushed to the guest room for his phone, then darted into the bathroom. The sound of running water muffled the conversation. I walked to the bathroom door and, through the crack, heard his broken voice, I'll find a way to get the money. Just wait a bit longer. Just then, my phone screen lit up. A notification of a failed $70,000 bank transfer. Ethan was still trying to get money from me for Chloe. It seemed he wouldn't give up until he'd completely drained me. Early the next morning, a few of Ethan's friends showed up uninvited, claiming they wanted to catch up. But their words were all about probing for information. Skylar, you must have made a fortune during your 3 years in the high-risk overseas assignment, didn't you? I heard it's very lucrative over there. Ethan can finally enjoy life now, maybe get a big house? I brushed them off, sending them away empty-handed. After seeing them off, I walked over to Ethan, who was pretending to be busy in the kitchen. That $70,000 from last night, was it for Chloe? My voice was calm and steady. His back stiffened abruptly, and then he swept the cups and bowls off the counter, sending fragments scattering. Skylar, what do you mean? Didn't we agree to trust each other? Why are you being so suspicious again? He was screaming like a mad beast, smashing everything he could see on the floor. As if that could cover up all his betrayal and sordidness. Ethan finished smashing things, then slumped amidst the wreckage, gasping for breath. I watched coldly, feeling only exhaustion. I couldn't be bothered to watch his act anymore, so I directly hired a private investigator to find out what Ethan had been doing behind my back these past 3 years. That evening, Chloe actually called me herself. Skylar, can we meet? At the coffee shop next to the hospital. I scoffed, wondering what new trick she had up her sleeve. In a private room at the coffee shop. Chloe was in a hospital gown, wrapped in a coat, her face pale, constantly coughing into her hand, looking as if she had days to live. Skylar. She reached out a trembling hand to grasp mine, but I pulled away. Not embarrassed, she withdrew her hand, her eyes reddening, the doctor said. I was on her deathbed. She sniffled, her voice thick with tears. Skylar, I know you suspect Ethan and me because of that trending topic. I admit, what I did was shady. But I couldn't help it. The only one I couldn't bear to leave behind was Leo. It was foolish of me to come up with the stupid idea of having another child with Ethan to keep Leo company. Ethan is a good man, and he's always only had eyes for you. I'm a jerk. For the sake of our friendship, will you forgive him and be good to him, please? And Ethan and his mother helped raise him since he was little. When I'm gone, would you adopt him? I'll make a will, and all my money will go to you. I looked at her feigned sincere expression, feeling my stomach churn. Just then, my phone vibrated continuously. The private investigator I hired sent an email. Inside were a dozen high-definition photos. Chloe in the photos was lively and energetic. There was one of her at the gym last week, shapely and alluring. Another showed her grinding with male dancers at a club, a lewd grin on her face. And others showed her driving a sports car with different men in the passenger seat, frequenting upscale venues. Finally, detailed financial statements were attached. Over the past 3 years, Ethan had transferred nearly $850,000 to her over time. I looked at the men in the photos, grinning from ear to ear, and the stacks of eye-catching cash in their hands. I remembered how Ethan, whenever he asked me for money these past 3 years, always said it was for buying nutritional supplements for his mom, or that household expenses were high. He didn't even buy himself a decent new outfit. Turns out, he was scrimping and saving, all to support this slut and her harem. When I left Bay City, Chloe joked that if I ever got rich, I'd totally hire 100 male models to persuade her to take good care of Ethan, who had a broken leg, and Margaret, who was gravely ill. I readily agreed. Back then, I would have never imagined Chloe would actually use my hard-earned money to support male models. She truly didn't treat me as an outsider. At the end of the email, the detective had found news that Chloe was planning to fake her death to run off, dumping her own son on Ethan. I put away my phone and looked at Chloe, still performing her deathbed plea for her child. I suddenly changed my mind. Some truths are more heartbreaking when seen with one's own eyes. I stood up and said calmly, I'll consider what you've said. Leaving with a smile plastered on her face, I turned and left. When I got home, Ethan had already cleaned up the mess, his eyes red, looking at me timidly. I was just about to show him the photos from the detective. But his phone rang first. He saw the caller ID, his face instantly changed, and he frantically answered. Whatever was said on the other end, his face instantly turned ashen, his voice trembling uncontrollably. Hold on. I'm coming. He hung up, fumbled for his bank card, his fingers shaking as he navigated his mobile banking app. Hearing the notification of a successful $30,000 transfer, I really wanted to open his head and see how much crap was inside. After transferring the money, he seemed to remember my presence, lunging and grabbed my arm. Skylar. Chloe, her condition had suddenly worsened, and she was in the ER. She called just now. Her voice was barely there. Saying her last wish was to see us. Ethan, tears streamed down his face. Skylar, will you come with me to see her? Please, will you? Just to say goodbye. I looked at his foolishness, still in the dark and willingly throwing money away. The last shred of pity in my heart vanished. Okay. I forced a smile, I'll go with you. At the hospital, Chloe had already been pronounced dead. Ethan looked at the white sheet, not even daring to lift it, crying heartbrokenly. I watched him cry in despair, unmoved. Only after the funeral home staff came to take Chloe away did I say calmly, come on, I'll take you to watch the show. He was startled for a moment, then raised his hand and slapped my face. Skylar, how can you be so cold-blooded and heartless? Your best friend just died, and you're thinking about watching a show? I wiped away the blood from the corner of my mouth and dragged him to the hotel next to the hospital. Even through the door, he clearly heard the sounds from inside. I kindly kicked the door open for him, and the indecent sounds abruptly stopped. Ethan froze in the doorway, his pupils constricting violently, at the scene in the room. Chloe, you're not dead? Chloe, who should have been at the funeral home awaiting cremation, lay naked on a bed strewn with rose petals. Her face was flushed, showing no signs of being on her deathbed. A man with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and an 8-pack had his arm wrapped around her waist, feeding her grapes mouth to mouth. The two were laughing and teasing, the atmosphere was intimate. On the nightstand, a new car key, likely thanks to the $30,000 Ethan just transferred. Hearing the commotion, Chloe and the man both turned their heads. Chloe's smile instantly froze, and she pushed the man away abruptly, trying to sit up in a panic. Ethan? Skylar? How did you get here? Ethan stared intensely at Chloe, then at the shirtless man, then at the glaring car key. His body started shaking uncontrollably. His expression shifted from shock to confusion, then to complete breakdown and despair. Chloe. His voice hoarse, as if squeezed from the depths of his throat. You're not sick? You lied to me? You've been lying to me this whole time? Chloe frantically grabbed the blanket to cover herself. Her eyes darting around. Ethan, let me explain. I did all this for you and Skylar's good. She put on a look of profound regret. The whole internet knew about us going to the hospital together. I couldn't keep it from Skylar. Skylar minded my presence. I didn't want to ruin your relationship. So I came up with this desperate measure of faking my death. To make you both think I was gone. So you could be together in peace and start fresh. And since Skylar is afraid of pain and didn't want to have children, I thought Leo could be your son. I did all of this for your own good. Ethan looked at her, a hint of wavering in his eyes. He seemed to actually be considering this ridiculous excuse. I scoffed, no longer interested in this farce. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Chloe's smug voice echoed from the speaker, clear as day. That idiot simp Ethan, he believes everything I tell him. The money Skylar risked her life for in the high-risk overseas assignment, didn't it all end up in my pocket? Get the man and the money, understand? After I have the baby, I can extort more child support, and I won't have to spend a dime raising either of my 2 children. The recording also contained the laughter of her shady friends. The color visibly drained from Ethan's face. He stared intently at Chloe, his lips trembling, unable to utter a sound. I wasn't in the mood to comfort him. I simply pulled a stack of documents from my folder and threw them onto the bed. Fake medical certificates? Only an idiot like Ethan would believe those. Over the past 3 years, you transferred $598,700 from me through Ethan. These are the records of your high-end spending with that money for different men. The white paper scattered across red rose petals, a stark contrast. Every single paper was like a resounding slap, hitting Ethan hard across the face. Chloe looked at the undeniable evidence, her face deathly pale, sweat pouring down. And no, it's not like that. Ethan, listen to me. The room door opened. My lawyer entered with 2 assistants, unemotionally beginning to read legal documents. Ms. Chloe, you are now formally served with a copy of the complaint. My client, Ms. Skylar, is suing you for suspected fraud, involving an amount of over $850,000. The calm, professional voice of the lawyer echoed through the room. Every word was like a hammer blow to Ethan's heart. He finally completely broke down. Ah! With a guttural scream, Ethan lunged at Chloe like a madman. Slaps landed on her face, and punches rained down on her body. Liar! Bitch! You said you only loved me. Why did you lie to me? Howling, he unleashed all his rage and despair on Chloe. Chloe scrambled, covering her head, looking utterly pathetic from his beating. The man with the 8-pack didn't want to get caught in the crossfire, didn't even dare to touch the car keys, and bolted out the door. I watched this scene silently. Watching this man I had loved with all my heart for 3 years, throwing a fit for another woman. Watching his carefully maintained facade was completely shredded, revealing the sordid truth beneath. In my heart, a dead calm settled within me. When, exhausted, slumped to the floor, silently weeping, I slowly spoke, my voice devoid of any emotion. Ethan, we're done. He suddenly looked up, his swollen eyes staring at me in disbelief. His gaze was filled with regret, pain, and a hint of a last plea. But I no longer cared. I turned, ready to leave this nauseating place. Skylar. No. You can't do this to me. Seeing this, Chloe copied him, lunging to beg me as well. Skylar, as friends, don't actually go through with this. I helped you take care of Ethan and his mother for 3 years. Even if I didn't help, I worked hard, can't you? I kicked Chloe away. You're suspected of fraud, get ready for jail. Hearing this, enduring the sharp pain, she frantically put on some clothes, trying to flee. But 2 police officers, who had been waiting outside, efficiently stopped her at the door. Chloe, you are suspected of massive fraud, and you are being taken into criminal custody according to the law. The cold handcuffs clicked shut on her wrist. Chloe's face turned ashen, and she collapsed to the floor. I stepped out of the room, didn't even glance back. The day after Chloe's arrest. When I went out, I found Ethan kneeling at my apartment door. He lunged, sobbing, clutching my leg. "Skylar, I was wrong, truly wrong." His face was pale, with dark circles under his eyes, looking as if he hadn't slept all night. "Skylar, please, forgive me? For 3 years you were overseas, I was constantly anxious. Every night I couldn't sleep worrying something might happen to you. I was just in a momentary lapse when Chloe deceived me. If she wasn't your best friend, I wouldn't have been so unsuspecting, and you entrusted her to care for us, told me to ask her for help if needed. I was just doing what you said." So, even now, he still believed that my infidelity and betrayal were because I shouldn't have arranged for Chloe to care for him and Margaret. He was right, it was indeed because I was a poor judge of character, allowing Chloe, that two-faced creature, to deceive him. I said calmly, "So I won't pursue any money spent on you and your mother, but I didn't hold a knife to your throat and force you to cheat. Your willingness to support her child has nothing to do with me." After all, anyone with a brain would question how a dying person would continuously demand money from themselves. And how a dying person could get pregnant and have another child. You know the truth deep down. Exposed, Ethan couldn't look at me, tears streaming down his face. I truly know I was wrong. I was stupid, I was blind. I walked past him expressionlessly, as if he were air. When I returned that night, he was still kneeling there. A thick letter lay at his feet. Seeing me return, he hastily shoved the letter into my hand. "Skylar, please look. These are all our memories." I didn't even look, directly threw the letter into the building's trash bin. He watched me in disbelief, crying even harder. On the third day, Margaret showed up. Her aged eyes streaming with tears, she gripped my hand. "Skylar, I know Ethan wronged you. But he was tricked by that awful woman Chloe. He's not bad at heart. For all the years I've cared for you, please give him another chance." I gently withdrew my hand, my voice calm. "Mom, I've repaid my debt. The rest, forget it." Margaret looked at my resolute demeanor and left in tears. A few days later, I received a phone call from the hospital. They said Ethan had slit his wrists, found by a neighbor, and rushed to the hospital. I rushed to the hospital, and the doctor quietly told me, the wounds were superficial, just scratches, but the patient's emotional state was unstable. Having witnessed his rooftop drama before, I understood the doctor's implied meaning. Out of respect for Margaret, I paid his medical bill. But I didn't enter the room. Through the glass panel on the door, I saw him lying on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. After being discharged, Ethan seemed like a changed man. He sold all his cars and luxury watches, raised $100,000 and transferred it to me. "Skylar, I'll pay back all the money I owe you." Following that, he rented a small apartment near my home. Every day, he showed up at my door like clockwork, carrying a thermos. "Skylar, I made you some soup." He timidly offered the container. I didn't even look, took it directly, and tossed it into the nearby trash can. His eyes reddened, but he persisted. "Your old abdominal wound isn't fully healed. You need someone to take care of you. I can be your free caregiver." "No." I cut him off coldly and closed the door. Sarah, our mutual friend, couldn't stand it anymore and invited me for dinner. "Skylar, Ethan is really suffering now. He's low. 20 pounds, looks like a ghost. He was just in a momentary lapse." I put down my chopsticks and looked at him. "If you feel sorry for him, you can take care of him." My friend awkwardly fell silent. Ethan used every trick he could to try and win me back, then resorted to dirty tricks. He started posting long, dramatic posts on social media. Things like 3 years of waiting for ruthless abandonment, and who hasn't loved the wrong person in their youth, implying I was cold-hearted and toyed with emotions. I directly registered an account, throwing out evidence of Chloe's fraud, detailed financial statements, and intimate photos of him and Chloe. With the caption, $850,000 to support your family of 3, isn't that enough loyalty and compassion? Public opinion instantly reversed. He was lambasted by netizens until he deleted everything and even closed his account. The most outrageous thing was, he bought a diamond ring, and knelt on one knee at my apartment door. "Skylar, marry me. I've always loved you. It's only ever been you." Holding up the ring, his eyes wild with fervent emotion. "Give me another chance. Let's start over." I looked at him, found it laughable. 3 days later, I put our apartment on the market. Because it was listed below market price, it sold in full that same day. As I was packing my belongings, Ethan rushed in and clung desperately to my leg. "No. Skylar. This is our home." "Home? I peeled his fingers off one by one. This is your home with Chloe. I blocked all his contact information. I changed my phone number and moved into a hotel. Yet, he still managed to find me. Skylar, I'm downstairs at the hotel. I bought your favorite. Please, just see me. It was then I realized he'd secretly put a tracker in my coat when I wasn't looking. I threw away the tracker and immediately moved to a new place. When I ignored him, Ethan sent me messages and called from various unknown numbers. I watched the constant stream of messages popping up on my screen. I simply turned it off, broke the SIM card in half, and flushed it down the toilet. The world finally became quiet. The peace didn't last long. I heard from Sarah, our mutual friend, that Ethan had found a job selling cars at a car dealership. This was the first time in 3 years he was truly earning a living by himself. Sarah said that after standing all day, his legs were swollen. I heard it, but felt nothing. Later, he started seeing a therapist. Somehow, his diagnostic report reached me. Severe depression, dependent personality disorder. He took a photo of the report and sent it to my new phone number. Skylar, I'm sick. Very sick. I replied, your illness definitely needs proper treatment. Then, I blocked the number again. The sympathy play was useless, especially since all the money Chloe had was squandered. Even though she was sentenced to 8 years in prison, she had no funds to pay fines, let alone the $850,000 she owed me. So, Ethan saw paying me back for Chloe as his only redemption. He naively believed that if he repaid my hard-earned money, we could go back to how things were. Unexpectedly, this action led to Chloe's parents showing up, claiming their grandson, Leo, couldn't be left unattended. They demanded he pay child support or they'd sue him for abandonment. Because called him dad all the time, anyone who saw them would assume he was the biological father. Ethan once again saw the dark side of human nature and called the police. With police mediation, Leo was taken by Chloe's parents. He asked a friend to text me, Skylar, I truly regret it, I regret every step I took wrong. If only you hadn't gone overseas. I'd rather lose my mom than live the rest of my life without you. People always romanticize the path not taken. But I didn't regret risking my life overseas to save Margaret. At least, today, I had a clear conscience. I still didn't reply and blocked our mutual friend as well. From then on, he didn't bother me again, and I enjoyed a peaceful life, recuperating from my gunshot wound. One weekend, I stepped out and found him standing downstairs again. His clothes were damp with dew, as if he'd been waiting for hours. Seeing me, he walked forward and bowed deeply. Skylar, I'm truly sorry. After saying that, he turned and left. No pleading, no crying. It made me a little surprised. The rainy season arrived, and his rented old apartment was leaking. I saw a video posted by his friend on social media. In the video, he was eating instant noodles, tasteless, his eyes empty, and his wrists covered in dense knife scars. I scrolled past, didn't like it. Instead, Margaret suddenly contacted me, saying a wealthy female customer was pursuing Ethan, coming to the car dealership every day to flirt with him. Skylar, is there really no possibility for you and Ethan? I truly don't want you both to end up like this. If you still have feelings for him, punishing him for a while is enough. I know you harbor resentment, but I promise he won't mess around again. After all, he was her own son. How could Margaret truly be considering my feelings? She just couldn't stand seeing her son working like a dog for meager wages, or even becoming a rich woman's plaything. Plus, I had always transferred tens of thousands at a time over the years, and she looked down on those wealthy women who wanted to toy with her son. Her phone call was nothing more than an attempt to test the waters with me. I clearly told her, Aunt, I've repaid the debt of gratitude I owe you. But we have no connection anymore. Margaret was silent for a long time, then sighed and hung up. After I changed my number, Ethan could no longer harass me, but on the 10th of every month, my account would receive a transfer from him like clockwork. Sometimes it was $500, sometimes $800. The memo always read, this month's salary, all to you. I didn't return it, accepting it with a clear conscience. He, however, misunderstood that I had softened and was about to accept him. So, he opened a secondary account on social media and started writing a diary. I stood for 12 hours today, my legs are almost giving out. It makes me think how exhausting it must have been for Skylar in the conflict zone for 3 years. Earning money is so hard, I can't imagine how she endured it back then. I really am a jerk. His words were filled with remorse. Margaret secretly visited me once for this reason. She had aged a lot, carrying pastries that I had even forgotten I liked. Skylar, Ethan, he's truly a changed man. All he does is work, never spending carelessly anymore. She started crying as she spoke. But it's too late. Isn't it? I took the pastries and walked her downstairs. I didn't answer the question. That night, Ethan decided he would no longer update that account, with the message, "Skylar, I won't bother you anymore. I'll spend my life repaying what I owe you. I wish you happiness." I saw the push notification and casually swiped it away. My heart was utterly calm. The wound had scabbed over, leaving an ugly scar. It no longer hurt, but it would always be there, reminding me that some people, some things, once lost, are lost forever. 6 months later, during a routine checkup, the doctor told me my abdominal gunshot wound had fully healed. Thanks to consistent exercise, my physical fitness was even better than 3 years ago. Alex personally spoke with me, fully acknowledging my capabilities. "Skylar, I'd like to invite you to be a partner." He handed me a contract. A 10-year contract, with the subsidiary entirely under your charge. I looked at the generous terms in the contract and signed it without hesitation. Before leaving, I bought Margaret a retirement insurance policy. It was enough to cover her living expenses and medical costs in her old age. The debt of gratitude was paid, and it ended there. Margaret met me at a cafe. She was looking frail and old, her hair completely constantly wiping away tears with her sleeve. "Skylar, I didn't raise my son well. I'm sorry." Her hand trembled as she poured my tea. "Ethan, he truly knows he made a mistake. Could you give him another chance?" I looked at her calmly. "Aunt, I've repaid my debt." She froze there, tears falling in large drops into her teacup. I stood up and paid for the tea. "I wish you good health and a long life. Please don't contact me anymore." The day I left, I heard Ethan waited at the airport for 3 days. He was holding a sign, hoping to see me one last time. I took the VIP entrance. After boarding, the flight attendant quietly mentioned a man had collapsed outside. I looked at the clouds outside the window, saying nothing. In 5 years, I made the subsidiary in the international division incredibly successful. My net worth increased dozens of times. I met Julian, my business partner's brother. He was independent and confident, and we connected easily. We naturally grew close. As we were preparing for our engagement, I received news of Margaret's critical condition. Ethan reached me after some effort, his voice choked with sobs. "Mom's gone. She kept thinking of you until her last breath, saying she wanted to see you one last time. Could you come back for her funeral?" I returned with Julian. At the funeral, Ethan handed me an old voice recorder. "Mom left this for you." Inside was Margaret's weak voice. "Skylar, I didn't raise Ethan well. I'm sorry to you." I paid for the funeral arrangements. Julian held my hand the entire time. Ethan stood in the corner, watching me carefully adjust Julian's tie, watching me be gentle and attentive to another man. He covered his mouth in agony, tears streaming down his face. Julian already knew about my past with Ethan. Seeing him staring at us, Julian couldn't help but softly say, "Late affection is cheaper than dirt." Ethan flinched. He didn't even dare to cry anymore. He just stared blankly at us, his voice barely audible. "I wish you happiness." The funeral ended, and Julian and I left. I didn't look back. On the plane, Julian hugged me tightly. "Have you let it all go?" I looked at him and smiled faintly. "Long ago." The sunlight outside was perfect, shining on our clasped hands. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.